शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यश्छन्दसा मृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु मे तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य म आनीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनादितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं नो अपि वातय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः वशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंहदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Sri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaramanyānasmad Gurūn Santato Manatosmi. So, we'll just a couple of more items regarding the Antaryami Adhikarana that we have been going through in the last few weeks, and then we will go forward. And I'll talk about some plans for winding up the Brahma Sutra. The first thing I wanted to say was that we have not been referring back to the English translation of the Shankara Bhashya by Swami Gambhirananda as we had begun. So on this particular Adhikarana, which is Antaryami, the Antaryami Adhikarana with 3 sutras, I just wanted to make sure that you are in sync with it. So on page 133 of this book is the topic discussed. And so just to make sure that you are in sync with it, it talks about 3 things. As you know, the title of each page or each topic has 3 different segments. First one is the Adhyaya, which is the first chapter. The second one is the Pada, which is a section of the chapter. And the third one is the Adhikarana. So those are the 3 things. So here it is 1, 2, and 5. First Adhyaya, second Pada, and 5th Adhikarana. So this is given on the page 133 of the Gambhiranandaji's book. So there it says topic number 5, and it starts with the internal ruler, which is the English translation of Antaryami. So I just wanted to make sure that you are not lost in the syncing of this, because so far we have been only talking about the Vaiyasika Nyayamala and also the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, but we have not been referring to the English translation. So I just thought that we would go back and resync, and so you can now follow this as we go forward in winding up the Brahma Sutra. Make sure that you have a sync in terms of which topic we are talking about and where the page number might be. That you'll have to find out yourself. But this particular one is on page 133. Okay, so that's the first topic. First thing I wanted to say about the Antaryami. The second thing I wanted to say about the Antaryami is that this is an important concept for us to really think about. The Antaryamitvam, the presence. We keep talking about the presence of Ishwara. Have you felt the presence of Ishwara, and so on. So that presence of Ishwara is enhanced by an understanding of the Antaryamitvam of Brahman, of Ishwara. This is an important topic which is taken up very extensively in the various texts. So I just wanted to show you that in Sri Rudram, So in Sri Rudram, there are many different aspects of Ishvara that are talked about. The two main aspects of Ishvara that Sri Rudram, and I'm just showing Swami Dayananji's book on Sri Rudram. The two main topics that Sri Rudram goes into considerable detail as far as explaining the presence of Ishvara are Sarvatmakatvam. Number one, Sarvatmakatvam means that Brahman is the core of everything in this world. Sarvatmakatvam. So this is the generic form of Sarvatma. The nature of being the Atma of everything is called Sarvatmakatvam. And we should be able to, we should not only visualize but understand how that is the case. It really is a very straightforward way for us to do that. We don't really pursue this very straightforward thing. So what the straightforward thing that we should think about is that starting with you and I, for each one of us, there is an important thing that powers my whole life, which is Atma Tattva, which is the nature of consciousness. And nature of consciousness is something just incredible. So one of the just look at one aspect of the nature of consciousness. That consciousness is ageless. There is no age to it. What does that mean? It means that everything that I experience is aging. It is a function within time. Everything. Nothing is an exception. You look at, you and I should just see our own bodies, how we have been aging. And we are aware of the aging. We can see the aging. We can see that our things around us are all aging, continuously changing and aging. Yeah, let's just focus on the word aging. We time talks about function of time, this, that, or the other, but just look at the word aging, age. And everything the whole history moves with aging. Things age. They get older. They transform. And there is no exception to this in whatever I experience in my life, with one exception. And that is the Atma. My own self, the conscious self, the conscious entity is ageless. How is it ageless? It is ageless because it is ageless both from all the three aspects that we know of, which is Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. Those are the three filters that we should always use in evaluating anything. So let's look at the three filters of the agelessness of the Atma. So the first thing is the Shruti. And the Shruti points this out that I don't think about. And the Vedas explain this very clearly, very firmly, repeatedly, obviously. And if you think about it, this is not universal. The presence of Atma, the consciousness, is not universally appreciated. Oftentimes we have seen commentators praise Buddhism. They praise Buddhism as, Buddhism is becoming more popular in the West. Much more popular than the Hindu thought. And yet, if you look at the very core of Buddhism, which is really a distortion of what the Vedic Shruti says. How? Buddhism says everything is kshanika. Everything is momentary. Everything is momentary. We say, what? Things are momentary. Almost everything is. We say almost everything is momentary. The Buddhists say everything is momentary. There's a huge difference between almost and everything. The Vedic thought says you cannot be momentary unless you have a fixed reference point. There is something not momentary which makes things look momentary. Otherwise, you cannot determine and evaluate and conclude that everything is momentary. Anyway, so this is what I was saying was Shruti. Three things are there for the agelessness of Atma. Atmakattvam. I am just explaining Atmakattvam. Then I will add the prefix sarva to it, which will become sarvatmakattvam. But right now just Atmakattvam. So the Atmakattvam has three filters: Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. Shruti is really what we were just talking about, that the Vedas say, don't you see that the consciousness is ageless? Is what the Shruti says. Then we need to think about it and use our power to reason, to be rational about it. And yes, we briefly mentioned about it, the fact that unless you have something fixed, you cannot evaluate that something is moving. You can only see something is kshanika and is pulsating and is moving only if you are not moving. It's funny that in if you look at the world, the Prithvi, it is moving very fast. But you cannot tell that my hand is moving unless the movement of the Prithvi is seen to be not moving. See, if I'm also moving and the hand is also moving, I cannot evaluate. So I have to be still. So the funny thing is that even though the earth is moving so amazingly fast, both rotating on its own axis as well as moving around the sun, huge movement. But Ishvara, in his design, makes us standing on the Prithvi as non-moving. When the sun rises, it only comes up because the Prithvi appears to be non-moving. So the point is the yukti that unless you have non-movement, you cannot see movement. So this is the yukti part of what the consciousness. Now comes the anubhava part of consciousness. And we should see this. We should see this. How? You say, I know. I know. I know. I am aware. I am aware. Is this I know, I am aware aging? You can say my memory is fading. Yeah, that's happening to me. My memory is, I just had my annual checkup with the doctor day before yesterday. In fact, really it was overdue by a couple of years because of COVID. And my doctor's office called me and he said, we need to really see you. We have not seen you for a couple of years. So I went to see him the other day. And I've had this wonderful doctor who's my, he's the normal doctor for anything. Then I have a specialist cardiologist, this, that, or the other, but I just went to see him. And fortunately, things are okay. Everything seems to be okay. So he was asking me, he said, what do you think about yourself and so on? So I said, Doctor, I think I'm doing okay. I'm exercising a lot. I'm moving. I'm eating well. My sugar is under control. The only thing I can see deteriorating is my memory. And it's very funny. Simple words are not coming to me anymore. Very some obvious things and so on and so forth. My wife is slowly getting a little bit more patient with me. She can just pause and I am just trying to explain, that thing? And she says, what thing? And my words are not coming. But I think I was telling you this some time ago, that my dad used to have the same thing and he was very upset about it. And the only thing I learned from my dad was, this is inevitable. In fact, I'm very happy. I just told the doctor the same thing. I said, I'm not worried because this is very natural. It is really, it's deteriorating, I can tell. And it's not as though no one else is happening and this is only happening to me. Must be a disease, this, that, or the other. No. I'm very aware of that. My dad also have it. And then my improvement on my dad is that I'm no longer upset. No longer upset. Why am I not upset? Because I know that my memory is fading. I know it. Now my knowing it is not fading. So the memory also is an object. The subject doesn't fade. The subject does not age. I know. I know. Does it age? It's the same I know. When I was a toddler, in fact, it's really funny. Sometimes I have a very clear recollection on the early parts of my life, and I remember the sheer discomfort, really, when the first time my mom left me at the school and came back. And I remember that feeling so well. I said, what is happening to me? Where am I? My mom's not here. This is a strange place with everybody playing and talking and so on and so forth. Do I belong? I remember that. The whole classroom is just incredible. It must be like 4 years old, I think. And that classroom and the smell and the look of the desks and the teacher, it's just amazing. I was aware of that. I remember that feeling, and all throughout the life as I was growing up. I know. And the I knownness, does it age? I used to know in a different form than now. No, it's the same I know. It's sometimes this is an important thing that we see. If you look at the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, for example, there Bhagavan Krishna talks about, I have known you keep on changing, Arjuna, but I know what's going on. Just, this is an interesting thing that we have to really explore in much more detail. And I'm thinking one of these days we're going to really revise the Bhagavad Gita with these new ways of looking at it that are now clearer to me. So here's the thing what I'm talking about. So Krishna talks about as Ishwara himself, as a teacher, which is very true. Because the real teacher is Ishwara. Everybody else is just a copy of the Ishwara. So Krishna is talking about various things and so on. And there what we have to see is we have to substitute Krishna by our own Atma. This is what we have to see. This is what is called aparoksha jnana. Paroksha jnanam is that Krishna is teaching. Aparoksha jnanam, which is the next step, is I need to see that I have exactly the same Swarupa as Ishvara. So this is the general point I'm making. Now let's come back to the agelessness of the Atma, which is the topic I'm just taking. I wasn't intending to take this. Honestly, this is just going in more detail than I was expecting, but that's okay too. So, agelessness of the Atma. So what I'm saying is this. Okay, yeah. If you look at some of the verses that introduce the Dakshinamurti Stotram, Dakshinamurti teaching. So I don't have the exact verse which I taught before. Right now it's not coming to me. But if you recall, it says, underneath the Vatavriksha, this is the picture. Yeah, this is an interesting picture. Look at this. So this is a picture of Dakshinamurti, who is situated underneath a huge tree, banyan tree called Vatavriksha, which is an Upalakshana, which is an example of the whole creation. Urdhva Moolam Adhas Shakham Ashwatham Prahu 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So the whole world is nothing seen as a living tree that we have to cut down. Anyway, that's a separate topic. So here, Dakshinamurti is sitting underneath the Vatavriksha. Dakshinamurti himself is very young. And all the Shishyas, as you can see, look at these Shishyas. They all have huge beards, white beard. They're all aged. Look at their ages shown. So the artists have to be very careful about that. This is what it is, that the teacher is young and the students are very old. What does it really mean? This points to the agelessness of the Atma. So this points to the aparoksha jnanam, that Ishwara does not age. If the Ishwara also ages, then we are in deep trouble. Because what Ishwara used to be a long time ago, he was so active and so capable and powerful. He's lost his power now. None of this makes any sense. Ishvara doesn't age. And do you know something? If we have to look at from a Shruti and Yukti and Anubhava standpoint that Ishvara doesn't age, we should see that I don't age. Atma doesn't age. This is the Anubhava. I know. The problem we have is that we just say, I know, we ignore it. The whole issue is, instead of just ignoring it, if we simply look at what that means, that I do not age. What? How can I not age? You are only aging because of your association with Anatma. Yes. But as the Atma, you don't age. So therefore, the Atma is the real teacher. Real teacher in the sense that the teacher says, Dakshinamurti says, hey, you and I are the same. Don't you see yourself as also not changing? This is what I have to see. I may be a student in the beginning, but then I really understand that I am not changing. And now I have to educate all of my minds, my previous vasana. I have to teach it and say, no, I don't age. This is the meaning of Atmakatva. No, I don't age. That is the aspect of me that I have to really see. And in the beginning it looks very strange, really, but the more I look at it, the clearer it gets. Now we'll spend more time on it some other time. Anyway, coming back to what we had started with, that there are two main topics in Sri Rudram. One is Sarvatmakatvam. So in doing that topic, we went into Atmakatvam. It is very obvious that the Atma is Sarva Atma. How? Same Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. Everyone that you know and meet and likely to meet and have met all says I. You're staying in your rooms right now watching this, you're saying I am watching. I am talking on this YouTube. You are watching. You is the same as I. It is the same I know. Same I'm aware. Same I. Ageless, not aging. How is this not Sarvatma? Tell me, how can this not be Sarvatma? How is it possible? You can only say, no, because I am different. You are a male, I am a female, this, that, or the. It's all because of Anatma. The Atma is the same. Ishvara is presence everywhere. This is the presence of Ishvara. What other presence are we looking for? Is he going to jump here and say, bless you, I'm happy you're studying Vedanta? It's not going to do that. This is the presence. Don't you see the presence of Ishvara as yourself? Ageless yourself? Unchanging? Forever young? Untouched by time? Amazing. We study and do all this and so on. Swami Maheswaran Jesus says, my God, we make Atma is something very difficult to reach. You have to go do this, study this, that or the other. You have to go for all these pilgrimages and study the Bhagavad Gita and so on and so forth. He says, it's you. What are you talking about? Where are you looking? This is the Shivalinga. This is how we found Shiva. This is Shiva is you. Ageless. Incredible. It is incredible because the most incredible truth I am oblivious to. This is why Vedanta is called Paramarahasyam. Rahasyam means the one which is hidden. Paramarahasya means one extremely well hidden by our mudha, by our non-understanding. It is just sitting there. Incredible. So this is called Sarvatmakatva. I'm basically spending more time on Sarvatmakatvam than the one that I wanted to talk about, which is Sarva Antaryamitvam. So those are the two main topics in Sri Rudram. Sarvatmakatvam and Sarva Yamitvam. Sarvayami. So, Antaryami, Sarva Antaryamitvam. So, Antaryamitvam means that the one that makes it function You see, this is the thing. Now let's go over to the second topic. We've already talked about Sarvatmakatvam, the agelessness of the Atma. This we have covered to a certain extent. And where in covering that we saw that it is really Brahman, Ishwara, which is present everywhere. Not that you and I are present separately, but the consciousness which is the nature of Brahman, which is Brahman, not the nature, it is the Brahman, is the one which is present everywhere. This is what we talk. Now we have to see Antaryamitvam is also the presence of Ishwara. Not only is, so here's the thing. See, that is what we have to see. Not only is Brahman the Atma of everything, of everyone, everything, everyone, the whole world, the whole cosmos, as Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Not only is the Brahman the Atma of everything, but Brahman is the functionary of the Anatma of everything. This is what we have to see. This is what Antaryami is talking about. So the Atma, Brahman, is not only the Swarupa, that we are using another word on this, I'll just talk about this. So this is also called Nirguna Atma, Nirguna Brahma versus Saguna Brahma. So the Nirguna Brahman is the Swarupa, which is the Atma, which is the ageless I know, I know, I know. Not the words I know, but not the Abhidhanam, but the Abhidheya, the one that it indicates. The very thought, the very concept, the very vastu, I know. So not only is that the Swarupa of everything, but Brahman is also the Swabhava of everything. It's the Swabhava. Swabhava means the personality. One is the person and the other one is the personality. So as the personality of everything, it is also everything. Antaryami, Sarva Antaryamitvam. Sarva Antaryamitvam means that whatever is visible You see, this is the thing. Another way to kind of make a distinction between these two topics is the one which is present but not as a visible object. This is so this is what is called the Pratyakatma. The Pratyakatma means the one which is there but not visible. Because it is the very subject which cannot be seen by anything, but it is, because whatever is seen is dependent on what it is. This is the same Pratibodha Viditam Matam that we saw in the Tuesday night class in the Kenopanishad. Same topic. So not only is Brahman the very Swarupa of everything, as I know, but it is the Swabhava of everything. It powers the personality of everything. Internally powers as the very presence in it. There we saw in the analysis of the Antaryami Sutra, this is where the Prithvi was used as an example, that we know that Prithvi, the earth, behaves in a very orderly fashion. See, this is one of the truths in life is that unless there is a master, you cannot function in an orderly fashion. It's true in our daily life. You know, if you look at schools, unless there is a structure, there is a teacher, there is a principal, people will not show up. What are they going to study? So similarly, the Prithvi moves in a very orderly fashion, means there is somebody who's an Antaryami, one who's a Yami. Forget about the Antaryami. Who's a Yami means Yamayati, one who regulates, one who controls. There is a boss. Now the question is, where is the boss? Is it external to an object or not? And if it's an external to the object, how is he going to do it? So this is a much more sophisticated topic that we have, much more subtle, not sophisticated, but more subtle topic that requires more analysis. But the end of that is no, there is no external. It regulates things by its very presence. Just like we saw the magnet. Like a magnet regulates all the things by its very presence. And so it is really the very, so the Antaryami of the Prithvi and human beings and others is nothing but Brahman alone. And in fact, nothing is there is nothing outside Brahman. So it really, any regulation, any order, any discipline that occurs anywhere is due to Brahman alone. That fact is pointed out in the Sri Rudram. So I wanted to just, that's what I really briefly wanted to mention anyway, and then I got caught up in Sarvatmatvam. So if you look at the structure of Sri Rudram, So these are the two main topics of Sri Rudrams. What are the two topics? Sarvatmakatvam, Sarva Antaryamitvam. And this is what it talks about in everything. So mountains, rivers, people, including bad people, thieves, robbers, killers, rishis, good people, ordinary people, small. It just goes into the detail of everybody by pointing out, hey Rudra, you are behind everything. We know it is you. This is the whole topic of Sri Rudra, which hopefully we will take some time. I'll talk about that. So if you look at the various anuvakas, and if you look at the commentary by the sages on it, you will see that one or the other is the main topic. Sarvatmakatvam, Sarva Antaryamitvam. So here in Anuvaka number 5. O Namo Bhavaya cha Rudraya cha Namah Sharvaya cha Pashupataye cha Namo Nilagrivaya cha Shitikanthaya cha Namah Kapardine cha Vyuptakeshaya cha Namah Sahasrakshaya cha Shatadhanvane cha Namo Girishaya cha Shipivishhtaya cha Namo Midustamaya che Shumate cha Namo O Hrasvaya cha Vamanaya cha Namo Brihate cha Varshiyase cha Namo Vridvaya Samvridvane cha Namo Agriyaya cha Prathamaya cha Nama Ashave cha Chajiraya cha Nama Kshigriyaya cha Kshibhyaya cha Nama Urmyaya Chavasvanyaya cha Nama Srotasyaya cha Dvipyaya cha. You are in the streams, Stotatraya, Stotasyaya cha. You are in islands, everywhere. Then Manuvaka 6, Namo O Jesthaya cha Kanisthaya cha. Jesthaya cha means an old person. How the old person is, how the body becomes loose, memory becomes loose, how the old person functions. Very weak. That whole weakness and aging and the disability of the old person is based on the order of Ishwara. It's not a random kind of a thing. This is the way it's supposed to be. Just like you have a leaf which is full of water and green and slowly becomes drier and shrinks. Similarly here, Jesthaya cha, Kanisthaya cha. And you look at a baby who's bubbling with new enthusiasm, learning new things. They are according to the laws of Ishvara. And so, Namo O Jesthaya cha Kanisthaya cha, Namo Purvajaya cha Parajaya cha, all of those. Then in Anuvaka number 7, the Antaryamitvam continues. Namo Dundubhyaya cha Hananyaya cha. When you have the drum beating and the sounds that come out of it, how they all are regulated, how they are behaving like that. Then in the battlefield, Dutaya cha Prahitaya cha Nishangine cha Shechu Madhe Cheshu Jeshu Dhimate cha, Tikshna cha, all kinds of. In fact, so up to 7. And so then there's references to the electrical phenomena. Meghyaya cha vidyutyaya cha, idriyaya chatapyaya cha. Then there are waters, rivers, meticulously designed with the presence of the Antaryami. So this is all Antaryami. Then in Anuvaka number 8, the scene shifts. Namasso Maya cha Rudraya cha, Namastam Raya cha Runaya cha. Here the scene shifts from becoming Antaryami, which is done, into really looking at the nature of the Antaryami, the nature of the Atma. So you can say that, this is the issue, that I know is the Atma. But then I need to know more about what does this I know look like. When you say this is ageless, but as a vastu, as a thing, as a thing, not as a jada thing, but as a chaitanya thing, what is it? Where is it? There the entire description of ekarasattvam, that it is unchanging, vijatiya, sajatiya, swagata bheda rahitam. All of that is talking about the very nature, not as an antaryami, but just as its independent nature. What does it look like? How will we describe it? What are its characteristics? What are the qualities? So then the Anuvaka number 7, Somaya cha, Rudraya cha starts. And so those are the various parts of the Rudram. But anyway, as part of that, the Antaryami is a major topic of really the entire Shastra. Also, by the way, the same thing is true for the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where the Arjuna says, can you show me your presence in the whole world? And there, as you know, Krishna tries to dissuade him. And he says, I don't know, why do you want to know that? You'll be scared. He says, no, you're a special, I have you, and this is something I want to know. He says, okay, tighten your belt. You're going to be scared, but let me show you. And he shows his presence in everything. How people are getting killed and they are being stuck on his teeth. He's chewing. How death comes. All kinds of gory details. And after that, Arjuna says, okay, I've had enough. I can't see. So similarly here, if you want to see the presence of Ishwara, not only in the good parts of the world, but in all these things where people are getting bombed and they are getting killed. Just incredible. All there is nothing but the presence of Ishwara and giving the karma phala to the people. Antaryamitva. Anyway, so we are pretty much done with that. Okay, now let's go ahead. So, over the last couple of days, I've given it some thought as to what we should do. Interestingly enough, in the last couple of weeks, I had a couple of students approach me and talk to me about the Brahma Sutra class. And what they said was that it appears you are not pointing it out to the experienced people, but in fact you are making it more to the newer people. And so these people who were experienced students said that we just want to point that out, that we would like to really have some study, which is very nice of them because they want to study more advanced topics. Now, in thinking more about it, perhaps I'm trying to stretch it a little bit too much because I am very sure, I'm reasonably sure that many of your newer students feel that we are going into too much detail and they are not able to follow it. So there you have it. You have some advanced, so I wouldn't call them advanced, but experienced people who feel that I am not really I'm not focusing on them. And then you have some beginning people who feel I'm not focusing on them. So this is too wide of a spectrum that I'm trying to hold. One of the students wrote to me and said that perhaps I feel you are trying to do the minimum, common factors for all of them. So what this means is that the way the Brahma Sutra is going is not meeting your expectations. I think we did the first 4 sutras in great detail, and then after that, with the way we are presenting it, perhaps need to be modified somewhat. So certainly I need, all those inputs are useful to me, and but then my challenges are the same, that that when you have a large spectrum of people, 50, 60 people who are watching, how do you make sure that you address the various changes and the differences in the students? How do you do that? I'm not sure. But anyway, I think what we should do is to wind up the Brahma Sutra. So my thinking is that, and I will start that process today, which I've been meaning to do, but perhaps I will accelerate it a little bit. So I'm going to give you a way to structure your study if you want to do it. So at least we will equip you with ways to study Brahma Sutra, and then once that is done, then we can wind it up, because obviously we won't have time to do all of them, not possible. So that's what I intend doing starting today. Not sure how many classes this would take, but I think it will be just a handful, maybe 3 or 4 classes. And as you know, I'll be going to the ashram, and a few of you are also coming with me to the ashram in the retreat in June 18th to the 25th. So when I come back from it, we will start a new text. And at this point in time, I'm thinking of Sri Rudram, but I may change my mind. We'll see. Quite frankly, I think we should reconstitute the classes so that there is a more clearer target for who we are teaching. I agree with those feedback from people. And so anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I still have some more thinking to do as to, given my time, how should I restructure the courses after June 25th so that it becomes more focused on the various target students. So we will think of that. But as far as Brahma Sutra goes, I think we will certainly be done before June, and probably much sooner than that. So I think we have I was looking at it yesterday. I think we have about 11 more classes before the retreat, 11 more Saturdays. I won't take that much to wind it up. I think I'll do that in about 3 or 4 classes. And so we would have a gap of 6, 7 classes that we can fill either with starting the Sri Rudram perhaps, or maybe just doing something in a stopgap for a while until we come back from the ashram, and then we will start the new text. So that's a general plan that I just wanted to share with you. That having been done, now let us look at how we want to cover very briefly how the rest of of the Brahma Sutra, 904. Okay, I think we can spend about 10 minutes and then. All right. So one thing I think I'm going to follow is that some time ago, a couple of months ago, I was corresponding with Srimati Shanti Ganesh, who is a excellent student and a teacher of Vedanta. She lives in Mumbai and she follows Swami Paramarthananda's teachings very well as others, and she has several students that she teaches herself, and she also attends some of our weekly classes. So I was corresponding with her, and she told me that she has already finished all of the sutras with Swami Paramarthananda, all 555 I believe. She just studies a lot, wonderful person. But then Swami Paramarthananda, in discussing it with her and revising, suggested a abbreviated course, and she sent that to me. This is a couple of months ago, as to what sutra Swami Paramarthananda ji has recommended that Shanti pursue in the revision. And I think that what I might do is at least give you that structure. Okay, I have something similar from another Swamiji, but in comparing them, I think I'm just going to go with Swami Paramarthananda's recommendation. And so all I'm doing is I'm not going to go through each one of them in detail, but just give you the structure of which of the sutras and adhikaranas Swamiji is asking Shanti to do, and I will cover some of them. And once the methodology has been adopted as to how we should cover them, then I'm going to wind up. Then I'll let you kind of do that, so at least the way forward is clearer to you. Excuse me. All right. So here on the first chapter, the first adhyaya, he's already done the 1, 2, 3 and 4, which we've already done. So that one is done. The next one is in the first adhyaya, pada number 3, adhikarana number 8. Okay, 138. So here's the thing. You already have, I believe, a PDF of the Vaiyasika Nyayamala. I suggest to you that when you want to go through some of the representative sutras, you follow this book. because here the author has given each adhikarana in 2 verses. Just a revision, you already know this. So this is a wonderful book because he has taken all of the adhikaranas contained in Brahma Sutra. Adhikarana means topics. And for each adhikarana, he has given 2 verses. One is Purva Paksha and one is Siddhanta. And he introduces the adhikarana with a enunciation of what the adhikarana means. Why is it there? So we will look at an example of that. We've already done it a couple of times, but I just want to revise it so that you're clear about it. So my recommendation would be that if you're starting to really study this, instead of going to the Sutra Bhashya by Adi Shankara, which is much more detailed, and this is what we did for Antaryamitvam. But if you're looking at a general review, then Vaiyasika Nyayamala should be your guide. And I will send you Swami Paramarthananda's recommendation. I think I may have already done so, I'm not sure. I'm really positive about it. But if not, then I will send it to you again. And so here, to give you an idea, just to see how much it is. Yeah, so he has given a recommendation to look at 22 adhikaranas and 85 sutras. No, that's not true. That is only for chapter 2. Sorry. My mistake. So take that back. So the grand total is 58 adhikaranas and 198 sutras. Instead of 555, 198. And even that may be too many for you. So you could just select based on your time and your understanding and so on. I will say this. Those of you that know Sanskritam, I think should try to do all of the recommended ones that Swami Paramarthananda has done. Those of you that don't may find it a little bit too detailed, and you may want to skip quite a few of those adhikaranas and sutras. So that's a distinction I would make. And so with that, let us look at a couple of representative ones. In fact, I'll just do one today because we're running out of time. And then I will do a few more representative ones in the next 2 or 3 classes. And once I feel through your feedback that you are comfortable with the methodology, we will wind it up. So now let us look at the next recommendation that Swami Paramarthananda made, which is Adhyaya 1, Chapter 1, Pada 3 and Adhikarana 8, 138. So this is given on the Vaiyasika Nyayamala book on page 61. I don't know if you have that in front of you, but you can look it up, so I will just talk about that. 61. So here, so as you know, one of the things that the Brahma Sutra does, so this you should be very familiar with, this fact that I'm going to tell you, you should be very familiar with it because we've been talking about this all along. What the Brahma Sutra does is to look at the various statements from the Upanishads, from the Shruti, and removes any doubts about those topics by students. So there are various statements made in the Vedas and various approaches of understanding Ishvara's presence talk about. The whole teaching is in the form of Upanishad topics, and in those topics doubts can come up as to who are they referring to, what are they talking about. And so the Brahma Sutra systematically looks at the various doubt-creating statements in the Vedas and clears the doubts. This is exactly what the Brahma Sutra is. So the Brahma Sutra is based on Vedanta Sutra. It's a Vedanta Sutra. It's not an independent work by anyone. It's a Vedanta explanation. Keeping that in mind, look at this particular one. So, this is on page 61, he says, and so this is the topic, how it will be given. He says, Ashtama adhikarinam acharayati. Means he makes it clear as to what the 8th adhikarana is. Okay? So this is about a statement in the Kathopanishad which is Angushtamatra. Angushtamatra. Angushtamatra means Ishvara's presence in the form of the size of one's thumb. Angushtamatra. For those of you that have studied the Kathopanishad, you will be familiar with this. Angushtamatra Purushaha. So in the description of the Purusha, there is an Angushtamatra. So he says that in the body of each person, this Purusha, this Ishvara, stays in the form of the size of one thumb. This is the topic. Now, people say, what? How can Ishvara be in a size of a thumb? Who is it referring to? It must be a jiva. It cannot be Ishvara. You cannot bring him down to a form of an... What is the significance of it? This particular adhikarana goes into details of this particular one. So he says there is a topic introduced, adhikarana, ashtama adhikarinam. Then there is a sandeha, which is a doubt. And then there is a purva paksha. And then there is a siddhanta. All given in these two verses, number 15 and number 16. So my recommendation to you will be, go through the recommended list by Swami Paramarthananda. I mean, you could do this for everything really, but if you didn't have as much time as it would take, at least start with the recommendation by Swami Paramarthananda ji, and then go to the particular page in this book and see the summary of what that is. If you want to go into more detail, then you can go to the Brahma Sutra with Shankara Bhashya. That can be done also. But right now you can just limit yourself to the Vaiyasika Nyayamala and then just do this systematically. And we will do this in a few cases so that you feel comfortable with it, and then we will wind it up. So with that, let me close the class today and see if you had any questions about it. But that is the plan that I intend to follow in completing the class on Brahma Sutra. Okay, so with a prayer, let me just close the class. Ashubhani nirachaste tanoti subhasantatim smriti matrena yat pumsam brahmatan mangalam param atikalyana rupatvat nitya kalyana samshrayat smartranam varadatvat cha brahmatan mangalam param tad mangalam viduhu ओंकारश्च अथ शब्दश्च द्वावेतौ ब्रह्मणः पुरा कंठं भित्वा विनिर्यातौ तस्मान्माङ्गलिकौ उभौ ओमथ 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 असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ओम शांति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम. Shantikumar, I am not sure about this book by Deepak Chopra, and I don't understand the ageless body and timeless mind, so I cannot really comment on it. Zarina, I'm not quite sure. Can you please give me more details on this book and the author? Which book are you referring to? Were you referring to the Vaiyasika Nyayamala? Because I had already talked about that in some of the previous classes. And this is the author of that is Sri Bharati Tirtha. And I think we had sent out a PDF of it. I don't know if that's the one you're referring to or something else. So please do let me know and I'll be happy to give you more detail. It's good. You say, I visualize the Angushta Matra Purusha in my meditation every day. Good. Yes, that's a good way to... the Angushta Matra is really meant for meditation because which is true for really the very essence of the Vigraha Puja, Murti Puja in Hinduism, because and then it causes a lot of misconception. People say that we have many gods and we worship formful God. The God should be formless, and it is all a aid for meditation, really speaking, because you don't know where God is, so you need to visualize. And so the Angushta Matra is useful for that purpose. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Zarina, I'm glad that's what I was just talking about. All right. Anyway, I think that what my goal is that instead of really looking at the details of the entire sutra literature, um, because obviously at some point in time you have to really study this yourself. I'm not even sure how long I would be teaching classes, who knows. So my goal would be to enable you to have an introduction to what the structure of the Brahma Sutra is, how to study it, what do you get out of it. And if I'm able to give you that comfort, then I'll be happy that I've done my job. So that's really what my objective are. Okay, so with that, I close the class and I'll hope to see you next week. Hari Om.